In this podcast, we're going to discuss the law of diminishing returns when it comes to general body improvement. This is, in simplified terms, the understanding that the more we improve, the harder and harder it gets to keep improving. So this is particularly relevant to those people who have been training outside what would otherwise refer to as the honeymoon period. The honeymoon period is essentially when you start making some significant changes to your training and general lifestyle, that you're going to see some results. Your training might be suboptimal, it might be really silly programming or not that high intensity or poor frequency, whatever, and your diet might be the same. But if that is a significant step in the right direction from what you were doing, then you're going to see a result. And that can be really extreme. You can see people putting on significant amounts of muscle mass and reducing body fat in a very, very short window of time. Why? Because their starting point was so low. So if you've gone from doing nothing when it comes to training and eating whatever's tasty, whatever you want, then you start putting some changes in place and you're going to see some results. And this is where most people get lost along their fitness journey. It's all exciting for the first few months when everything's changing by the day or by the week, and suddenly those things start to slow down a little bit, and that can be very demotivating. So the analogy that I use is that it's like swimming upstream towards a waterfall. When you jump in that river, initially the waters aren't moving that fast, and you can pretty easily move in the right direction. But as you get further and further away from your starting point, the water's moving very, very quickly. So not only do you have to fight 2 times, 3 times, 10 times as hard just to move forwards, as you're fighting a current which is trying to push you backwards. And this is a general human evolution thing. Our bodies like holding on to fat mass just in case there's another ice age, just in case there's a period of starvation. So we've evolved as a civilization faster than our bodies have evolved, and our bodies are very uniquely tuned into trying to hold on to less muscle mass because that's it requires energy and calories, and it's metabolically active tissue. The fat mass is great because it's fuel just in case the food's not around for long. So we've got to fight that if we're trying to be healthy, fit, lean, and constantly improving. And improving across all areas: health improvement, body composition, and performance. So I've got some dot points I'd like to express in this podcast that I think will help most people understand why we're getting law of diminishing returns and how they can actually, continue forwards in the right direction long term, knowing that there's going to be more and more effort required for possibly less and less result. The first thing I need to express and encourage you guys to take on board is accepting that. The longer you resist that, the more that you think you're a beautiful, unique snowflake and you are just going to continue to perpetually improve at these quantum levels, you're setting yourself up for inevitable failure and frustration. If this was the case, if we could take that first 3-month period of change that you made and extrapolate that out and say, therefore, this is my formula, this much body fat loss, this much muscle gain, this much strength improvement times by 12 months, that's where I'm going to be, then we would all be supreme super athletes. If we take the most highly tuned athletes we know, say Olympians, professional sports players, if Usain Bolt, whatever his name is, was able to improve on his time consistently, that guy will be running 100 meters in 4 seconds. Now, does he get devastated every time he doesn't beat his own world record? No. Why? He understands uniquely that he is so far redlining his body that for him just to compete anywhere near the same level of what his previous personal bests were requires a peak phase in his training. So as general population people who are training just to offset disease and improve our quality of life through healthy lifestyle and training, we have to accept the same laws apply to us, and we're going to get less and less return over time. Acceptance is the first step. Now the next step will be understanding that you can mitigate those plateaus and bust through them with expanding your awareness about what affects your body. A simple case. You take, let's take a fantasy character here, Wendy. Wendy eats whatever she wants, generally, doesn't do any exercise, maybe goes to the gym once a month and walks on a treadmill reading a magazine. So when Wendy starts training with more intelligent programming at a higher intensity more frequently, looking at her nutrition and starting to make some educated choices about what she'll abstain from, what she'll include, she's going to see a dramatic improvement. But if she stops there and just makes some basic changes, eventually, whether it's 3 months, 6 months, 3 years, there's going to be a slowdown of those results. So the idea here is to expand your understanding about what affects your body. Do you have inflammation throughout your body? Are you assimilating the foods correctly? Are you eating foods that you're sensitive to or intolerant to? What's your hormonal balance like? What are your vitamin and mineral levels like? What's your stress load like? All these things affect how our body changes and improves. So I want to be careful here not to stress anyone out and say, look, unless you look at all these factors from day one, that there's no point starting. That's absolutely not true. But over time, as you get more and more advanced, you have to start looking at these other areas if you want to keep improving. So that's a huge point that we really need to make super clear. Constant education is part of this journey. The second you think you know it all, or the perfect plan that worked for you 5 years ago, that's self-limiting, because it limits your ability to readjust, recalibrate, and analyze, is what I'm doing working for me right now? So acceptance, constant expansion of our awareness of how various factors affect our body. Now the third point I want to make, this is probably grounds for a whole other podcast, is moving away from the idea that the universe owes you a result from what you've done this month. And this comes back to the honeymoon period. Initially, we make changes, we make changes, our body changes, we make changes, our body changes. And that's fantastic. It's great going to the gym, training, and feeling stronger each week, seeing your body improve. But it starts to formalize this idea that every time we're going to exercise and every time we're making a positive food choice, that emotionally we're putting these little psychological deposits into the piggy bank of my body owes me, where's my result? And I've seen so many women get caught up in this idea because as those results start to slow, there's a frustration. And if we come back to law of diminishing returns, we've acknowledged the fact that we're going to have to work harder and harder to get less and less result. So we start freaking out because it's like, I'm working harder than I ever have before, and I'm not improving at the same rate. Of course, this is human nature. You might not want to emotionally deal with that, or you might want to ignore that, but it's only setting yourself up for more and more frustration. So we have to accept that there's going to be law of diminishing returns. We mitigate that from constantly expanding what affects our body, and we move away from this idea that there's a positive result for me in this acute period of time. Where's my result today? You know, I was definitely carrying more muscle mass, stronger, leaner, faster, whatever, a long, long time ago. Why? Well, my priorities are slightly shifted in life. So I can still train, I know enough about my nutrition and functional medicine and so on to make sure that my training is effective. But I don't freak out because, you know, I'm carrying less muscle mass or I'm stronger, I've got more body fat than I did, 4 years ago or whatever, because I accept that that's part of the deal. And I'm anchored to the idea that I'm so far ahead of where my starting point was, that I'm still light years in the right direction. So that's the general point I want to get across, girls, in terms of law of diminishing returns and the fact that you have to work harder and harder to get the same result. Embrace this is a long-term lifestyle thing. You're going to be looking at your diet differently when you're 40, 50, 60, 70 than you did today. So you have to embrace that, get comfortable with it, understand that this is going to be a long-term process and there's all these cool areas of stuff that you can learn about, not getting anxiety or analysis paralysis by that, and just breaking it down, reverse engineering this and saying what is the best positive step forwards for me today. Hope that helps, girls.